Greetings. Today is January 1st, 2023. It's the first day of the year, and I'm excited about it because Spirit has been leading me in all kind of interesting ways. And in one way, it is to share with everyone about the King of Spades because today is the King of Spades Day in the Cards of Destiny. So happy New Year and happy King of Spades Day. But I want to just touch on the astrology a little bit for today. And today we are in the season of Capricorn. We have the sun in the constellation of Capricorn. And in the constellation of Capricorn, we also have Venus and Mercury, who is retrograde, and Pluto. But the big news for today, as far as the astrology is concerned, is that Venus has co-joined Pluto. And when we think about Venus and what she does, she is the goddess of relationships and beauty and money. And we think about Pluto and what he represents, and that's transformation and revealing deep truth. And so I just wonder if today might present some opportunities for relationships to be transformed, to have some deep truths revealed about relationships, about things that we value, about what we want. And it seems to make sense, right? For today, January 1st, we are evaluating the things that make us happy. We are evaluating the people that bring us joy. And that's what Venus, will do. And that is what Pluto will do. Pluto's mission really is to transform you. He is to bring things out from the deep, dark secrets that we keep hidden up to the surface so that we can see them and deal with them, and also to help us elevate ourselves and bring us to the next level. And that's a king's energy. And Pluto, he rules over kings. So it'll be interesting to see how the day unfolds as we begin the year on a day where Venus is conjunct Pluto in the constellation of Capricorn. Now, that also means that the King of Spades is a Capricorn because today is his day and we are in the Capricorn season. Spades are ruled by Capricorn. So he's the King of Spades. So let's get into it here. So basically what we're going to, I wanted to share with you my cards that I pulled today. So it's the first of the year and I pulled a couple of cards this morning, and I pulled the Ace of Hearts. And I thought that was amazing because the Ace of Hearts, this is the first day of the year, and the Ace of Hearts and the playing cards and the spiritual spreads is the very first card of the deck. And what the Ace of Hearts is about is your self-love and really desiring love as well. So there's a strong desire present for love, and how we attract love into our lives is really through how we love ourselves. And that's what the Ace of Hearts will really show and teach us. And today, again, like we know, Venus is there conjunct Pluto, and she is talking about things that we love. And so this is about me loving myself and making myself a priority. So aces always, mean a priority that's happening. Now, notice this is my card where I've written some notes on it. And I pulled this card reversed today. So, maybe it means that I haven't really been making myself a priority. And maybe this year is the year that I do that. Okay. In the other position, I pulled the two of diamonds. When I say the other position, this is a 2-card draw that we like to do, or I like to do on a daily basis. One is the approach and one is what you avoid for today. So it's interesting because this is the avoid card, and I pulled the 2 of diamonds. 2 of diamonds reverse. So it's like a double negative. It's like avoid not being in agreement, or being in contract, or being, aligning my values with another. And so it's interesting because it's telling me not do those things. So in other words, it's like, I may as well put it this way and put it in the other reverse. It's like, go ahead and, align yourself with someone who has the same values as you do. That's what the 2 of diamonds does. If you know, it's my definition that I put here. I call it the deal maker. So make a deal with somebody. And sure enough, later on today, I will be making dinner with somebody for New Year's Day. So this is great. We're loving ourselves, putting ourselves first, and making what we want a priority. And we're also coming into agreement, and that's what we are doing today. So those are my cards for today. But why I am online is to talk about the King of Spades. So what I'll do is basically talk about the King of Spades. We'll talk about the structure of the playing cards just so that you can understand how we use the playing cards as a system of divination, especially with the cards of destiny system. Then we'll go over the technical aspects of the King of Spades, talk about the King of Spades symbology, talk about the spades suit themselves, and then we'll look at the King of Spades life spread. We'll talk about the King of Spades in relationships. We'll talk about King of Spades archetypes. We have two that I'm going to focus in on. One is the executioner, so that would be the low side sort of expression of the King of Spades, and the other will be King David to talk about the higher side of the King of Spades. And then we'll talk about some of the challenges of the King of Spades. We'll talk about the King of Spades, the oracle. We'll talk about what it means when the King of Spades shows up in a reading. And then I'll offer to you a little King of Spades meditation if you want to go further in studying on the King of Spades. So I put together a little slideshow. That's the best way I can keep myself focused and on target. And so I'll share my screen. Oh, share screen. Here it is. And we want our desktop here. This one, yeah, we're going to share the screen. Share. And I hope that I'm sharing it right. Still learning my tech. Okay. All right, let's just put that over here. I don't know where to put it. Okay, good. That looks like a good place. All right, and then we'll start the slideshow. All right, let's go. So I've done my introduction here. This is the King of Spades. He is the King of Kings. He is the king of all of the kings in the playing cards. So what does that mean? Let's just talk a moment about the playing card tarot, or the cards of destiny. It's said to be 20,000 years old from Atlantis, and there are 52 cards in the deck. So the cards are astrologically aligned, and they are based on numerology, sacred geometry, symbology, and they reflect the cosmology cycles of the earth. So let's just go through one revelation around the sun, one revolution around the sun. We have 365. That is the number of days it takes the Earth to travel around the sun. That's 1 year. So that's the sum value of the pips on the cards. So when you add up all of the values of the pips on the cards, they equal 365. So you have to consider that the jacks are 11, the queens are 12, and the kings are 13. So ace 1 and so forth all the way through. And when you add up all of those sum values, they equal the number of days in a year. Then you have the number 52 to think about. And that's an important number in these playing cards because there are 52 cards in a deck, and there are 52 weeks in a year. That's important because when you add 5 and 2 together, that is the number of 7, and 7 is the number of days in a week. So you're starting to see how this is a system of time. Just like astrology, it really lays layers over with astrology. These are time systems. These are calendars that help us to use them as systems of divination. Then you have the number 4. 4 is another important number. You have 4 suits in a deck of cards. You have 4 weeks in a month, 4 seasons in a year, 4 cardinal directions, 4 natural elements. Those all align with the 4 suits in the deck. And then you have a 13. That's another important number. 13, that represents the number of cards in each suit. And you have 13 weeks in a season, you have 13 lunar cycles. And when you multiply those 4 suits by 13, that makes the 52. And those are the sacred numbers of cards in the deck. Then we have the number 12. 12 will represent the 12 royals, or the court suits. There are 12. So you have 3 by 4, 3 of them in each suit by 4 suits. And then you have 12 months in a year, and you have 12 zodiac signs. All right. We have the number 7. I already talked briefly about 7, but then again, the 7 days of the week, the 7 planets, or the 7 wandering stars. And we also have something called the sacred 7 in this card reading system, and you'll find out very soon that the King of Spades is one of those sacred seven. And then you have the number 2 to think about. And 2 is important because of the duality of nature, of how all of existence is. So we have red and black in the cards, okay? So day and night, the solstices and the equinoxes, masculine, feminine, positive, negative, yin, yang, red, black. So that's the basic layout and structure of the cards. And that is how we are able to use them as a system of divination. Okay, so, oh, and then I wanted to tell you about the cards that you see pictured in the back. Now, this is a deck that I just ordered. I'm really excited about it because it's rare, and I hope that I just got the last one that exists. But this is the Afrocentric playing cards. It's the Black Royalty deck, and I found that and am excited, or it found me, and I'm excited about its arrival. So very excited about that. Now, here's another way that we can look at the structure of the playing cards and how they are aligned zodiacally. Now, I've taken a picture here. I just took a picture out of one of the books that I study, and this is the Mystic Test book. And this lets you see on the circle how the cards are laid out in the season. So I like to think of things in seasons because this is a time-telling system, right? So this is an illustration. So each suit is spread out in its own quarter with the 4 aces. So you have your aces represented here in the 4 quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that'll be the aces. And then you have the 12 cards, and those are put into each of the 30-degree cycles around the zodiac. So for each sign, let's just start right here. We're talking about the King of Spades today. So right here in December, this is a 30-degree slice of the zodiac pie, and that represents Capricorn. And then when we lay our cards in there, you see that we have our Ace of Spades out here on the side, and then we just start to lay them out. We have the 2 of Spades, the 3 of Spades, the 4 of Spades, and then it goes back around, 5 of Spades, 6 of Spades, 7 of Spades, all the way up and through. And you'll notice that these numbers is not random, that they were chosen to be put into each of the cycles this way. It shows you that this is the center, this is the season of winter, this is the season of spring, this is the season of summer, this is the season of fall. But within each of those 30 degrees, okay, the card values actually add up and sum to 30. So when you add, you know, all of the numbers here together, they will equal 30. So I use one over here example where I've done it for us, where we have over here in the hearts. If you add this up, 3 and 4, you go on and you see what's happening, that you end up with 30. Okay, so in there 30 degrees. So that's just one way to look at it. And then, and I think we've covered everything there. Let's move on to the next one. All right, let's start talking about the King of Spades. So the King of Spades, like I said, in the cards of destiny, it's a time-telling system. And then there are cards that align with each day of the year. And for January 1st, the King of Spades is the only card dedicated for that day. So those people who are born on January 1st have a birth card of the King of Spades. Now, the King of Spades can also be a planetary ruling card, and that aligns with your birthday as well. But that's a separate topic that we can talk about. But there are people who know that their planetary ruling card is the King of Spades, so they'll also want to tune in. And then we have the King of Spades will show up in our spreads all of the time. So the King of Spades, his position on the in the grand solar spread is the crown row. That is the highest ranked card in the deck. He's at the very top of the spread. Okay, he's a fixed card. That's his mode. That means that he does not budge, he does not move. And as I mentioned, that he is one of the sacred 7. So of those sacred 7 cards, they have a certain special energy that work throughout the deck. And he's the head of them. Okay, he's obviously the head of the spade suit. His color is black. That's yin, that's negative, that's feminine. His season is winter. His zodiac sign is Capricorn. And the planet that rules over the kings in this system is Pluto. And then you have the kings and what they represent. Kings represent principles and values and fixation. Okay, and then the symbols, his upright sword, standing for the truth of justice, In his associations, the King of Israel, you'll see, throughout some decks and in some divination systems, the King of David referred to often. And some key words to keep in mind when we're talking about the King of Spades is mastery. As you see, I've written on the top of the deck that I like to use. My deck is, I call him the master. So, and he's the last and most wise and most powerful card of the 52 cards. So he is the 52nd card. Now let's just talk about the kings. And I said that he's the king of kings. That's because if you're familiar with playing card games, usually you know that spades will trump all of the other card games, all of the other cards. If you're just playing spades, for example, we laid this hand out and everyone had a king on the table, I would take home that set because I have the King of Spades. He rules all of the kings. So, and then another thing for you to look at and to consider are just look at the different kings and how they are actually positioned, their symbols, their eyes, their gestures. These are the things that give us clues about the nature of the card that we're working with. And if you notice here, the King of Spades, he's the only guy looking to the left. And it's as if he's having an auditory memory. So when we look in that direction, just from understanding a little bit about body language, it's like we're, especially when we're looking directly here, it's like we're trying to remember something, like we heard something. And that's what he's doing. So he's very strategic. He's listening to his higher self, to his higher guidance. Okay. Now, then we look at the facial hair on these kings. Now, facial hair, for men, it's kind of like that lion thing where they have their mane really, depicts and shows their authority and power. And for men, it could be shown that alpha male in their beard. And of all of the kings, he has the bushiest beard. He has curls all around his beard. Okay, so that's something else to take note of. And then the hairstyle, his hair, the black cards, if you notice, the ends of the hair curl up at the end. And that could just also up versus down. We have downward curls and then we have upward curls. So these are things that we look at when we are looking at the symbols on cards. We really, decode them as much as we can. And then we look at his sword, it's upright in his sign, it's a sword of justice. So those are the symbols that we look at. We can look at his eyes and we see that he has a mustache and we can see the intent on his eyes. They're deep, they're, even they're old looking when you are able to really look closely at the symbols, that he has old looking eyes. And if we know about Capricorn, we know that Capricorn, they take care of old people. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So wisdom and old wisdom is reflected in his eyes. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Suit of Spades, okay? And all of these cards that you see, these are cards that actually have, this is my Wizard of Oz deck, and you notice just in the collective consciousness, the images that automatically get associated with the King of Spades. And here from the Wizard of Oz, well, of course, the one who had to get his courage, the courage that he had in him all along, is the lion. But here he's on the King of Spades card, all in his glory with his victory. And it says that a sword, a spade, and a thought should never be allowed to rust. So again, showing you the association of spades with swords. So spades, again, they are the highest ranked suit in most card games, conscious and positive because it's black. So we're talking about excuse me, not because it's black, but because I'm talking about the conscious positive side of spades. Okay, so the conscious positive side of spades, spirituality and wisdom, new perception and alignment with your deeper self, hidden insight and health. Your physical health is associated with spades. On the unconscious or the negative side of spades, we're dealing with troubles and tears, obstacles and difficulties. And you will continue to have obstacles and difficulties when you're dealing with the spade suits until you are able to surmount and overcome them. They will continue to come and get at you until you can overcome them. The season is winter. It is associated with, in the tarot, with the swords and the knives. And keywords for spades are old age, wisdom, health, lifestyle, death, destiny, justice, transformation, acceptance. And the planets associated with spades is Saturn. Now, what we're looking at is the life spread of the King of Spades. So the King of Spades here at the top. Now we said 7 was an important number because of the 7 planets. Okay, so each position that you see laid out here is represented by one of the planets. Okay, so it starts off with Mercury and it goes all the way through all of the planets. And then we have a challenge card and we have a result card. Now, in an extended version of this, we have 13 cards. But for today, I'm just going to talk to you somewhat about the King of Spades, the life spread in general. So starting off here, you see that in the Mercury position, Mercury is always dealing with the way that we process information, the way that we communicate. And here we have the 3 of Hearts. That's the card I've written up here. I call it the socialite card. But it can also indicate, the inability to really make decisions, especially as it relates to love. So the 3 of Hearts is indecision about love and close relationships. Lifelong uncertainty about love, really, because this is a life spread card for the King of Spades. Relationships will mostly be short in duration. The King of Spades needs to have freedom in his affairs. They often forego marriage and opt for the single life. They enjoy the element of playfulness and affectionateness. And as we move on into the Venus position, you see that we have the Ace of Clubs there. Now, this is a special card. This is one of the Cosmic 7. So here it is, the King of Spades he's a Cosmic 7, and then he has in his life spread another Cosmic 7 card. Now this Cosmic 7 card is not a fixed card like the King of Spades. It is a semi-fixed card, but it has a special energy about it. So you begin to see, sort of the signature high frequency of the King of Spades as we go through the spread, and why it is probably that they do better, in relationships that allow them to touch a lot of people, because they're here really to serve on a very high level, not so personal, but more on that universal level. But with the Ace of Clubs in the Venus position, where we talk about, the things that we like and the people that we like, this person is just really always very interested in good conversation. This is a new situation card. This is a card that sparks inspiration. It's a card that plants the seed for new ideas. And so this causes one to be more enterprising because they can come up with a lot of ideas. So they like to be around and with people where they can shoot off a lot of ideas, come up and start new things and operate on that level. Now in the Mars position, okay, so we had Mercury, Venus. Now in the Mars position, we have the mother of intuition. That is the Queen of Clubs. And so this person is, can use their mind in a very strong and aggressive way. This person, if it were a lawyer, would have no problem winning, lawsuits and things of that nature, because of the mental capacity of the Queen of Clubs. In that Mars position can make this person also very, strong and intelligent. And good with their words, very strong discernment and acute mental capacities. That's what that adds. And then we have and see here the area of responsibility when we get into the Saturn area, and that's work. That's the 10 of Spades. That is the card of the workaholic. So this person will work a lot. This is the card of work success too. This is why the King of Spades can realize such great success, because it is influenced, or has built within it, this extra card of hard work. Now, some people may see that as miserly, but, it's very much necessary and needed in the world that we live in. And so, so as Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. So this is really adding this area of where this person is blessed and can be blessed by working really hard and adhering to that, being really focused on the things. Once they get focused on their work, that is what the King of Spades is going to do. Okay, but then we also have this Five of Clubs over here. This Five of Clubs can bring about the area of, wanting to actually avoid responsibility. Now it's in the Saturn position, so it is a challenge. Not all kings want to really, take on all the responsibility of a king, and it could be influenced by this sort of this five influence right here in the area of responsibility. It also indicates that there could be, maybe some issues dealing with the father and authority figures, especially with a five here. So it really does explain why some kings, choose to sort of avoid expressing their natural talent for leadership, and they may just choose a different path altogether. But these people have deep, deep insight. Okay, so we see that indicated with the Ace of Spades, and I'm jumping ahead because the 3 and the 5, they kind of work together in terms of how it is expressing some sides of the king where they don't want to step up to their responsibility, but they have great insight because the Ace of Spades, I call it the born again card, but it is the card of this esoteric system. The sun is shining in here. Let's see if I can block it out a little bit. The sun wants to shine in, so that's fine. When these people have to spend time alone, and they do spend time alone because, to be the head of anything, you hear it in our consciousness where they say that it's lonely at the time. And that's because they need to spend time to think through all of the heavy things that are going on in their mind and in their soul and in their spirit. And the Ace of Spades really gives them, revelation, knowledge, and insight. So these people can be quite profound and prophetic in that way. Their lifetime challenge, though, is this universal love card. And this could also, explain some of the reason why the Ace, or this King of Spades, chooses to, more or less live a solitary life or live the single life too, is because that 7 of Hearts is a very high level of love. This is an unconditional, detached love card, and it's a challenge. So this person may be, hurt in some kind of way early in their life. And it could cause a lot of pain where they just simply don't allow for people to come in, and they really stay guarded and protected in that way. But they have the capacity to love on a very high universal level without any expectations, or it's kind of like that Jesus Christ love. So it's a high level of love. It's not one that comes by easily. And the King of Spades likes the world. So you can see that could be a challenge. And the result, though, is the Millionaire card. It is another 7, another high frequency. So these cards of high frequency that make up the King of Spades life spread, this is another one. The 7 of Diamonds, I put another little star there. That's an indication that is a cosmic 7. So this cosmic 7 has 3 cosmic 7 cards all together here in one life spread. And then you also notice that the life spread of the King of Spades is lined with a lot of odd numbers. So when we have odd numbers lined up in our life spreads, this is how we operate. Kind of odd, but we're dealing with things that are more difficult. They're not as stable. So we're dealing with things on a very high frequency. All of the cards of the King of Spades are on the Mercury row in the grand solar spread. So they have that mercurial energy and vibration to them as well. So the quote here that I put with this king is, it's a powerful ride in the royal kingdom of the cards, having the life spread of the King of Spades. Within this king lives an insatiable desire for life that must be fulfilled with a variety and spice. So that's the part where I've written it there underneath those 3s and 5s. Okay. Now let's talk about the King of Spades and relationships. Now, King of Spades, in the general and out there, you'll see there's many different ways of reading cards, as you'll know, but I take a lot of them into consideration, and then, just based on my own experience or what I see from doing readings with clients and what I see in their lives, I kind of see what works. And one of the areas, unfortunately, as I put this quote, though, it says that the King of Spades indicates a man of bad faith. He is a predator who seeks to use you for his own ends. This card often indicates a love affair with a wrong man. Even though you know that the King of Spades is bad for you, you still want him. Do not despair. You have the strength to resist him. Say no. Now, this might be some good advice that you're giving a person who's come to you for a reading, and the King of Spades flips up in their card, and they seem to already be distraught or, very concerned about, the person that is in their life. That's only one side. But if you understand, now that I've gone through the life spread with you, that those high frequency and those sensitive cards, that 3 of Hearts in the Mercury position, and then we have, I'm looking over here at my chart, and then you also have that 7 of Hearts in the Pluto position. That Pluto position again, that 7 universal heart with the transformative power of Pluto, who digs you in deep, that goes into, the very depth of your unconsciousness, and pulls those deep truths out. You can see how that person, if they're not aware and if they're not operating on their higher side, could be what the King of Spades, shown up in that way. So let's talk about this then. So the King of Spades in relationships. First of all, I talked about the Ace of Clubs. That's his Venus card. So there's a very strong mental approach to love. He's stimulated by conversation, new learning, exploration, and the exchange of ideas. And then you have the 3 of Hearts in Mercury. So this causes feelings of uncertainty and confusion, indecision about love and close relationships. They can feel insecure. Now, the 3 of Hearts is never satisfied. They're always looking for, if the grass is greener on the other side or not. So there is always this feeling of insecurity that comes along when you have the 3 of Hearts present. So you could feel uncertain. And because of that, and this is a life spread card, because of that, they may just decide to forego marriage all along and just live the single life because of this uncertainty. However, this could extend into their sexual role. So you find a lot of people who have the 3 of Hearts as their birth card involved in a lot of different sort of love triangles. The 7 of Hearts as the Pluto card. So now this is a karmic pattern that's being revealed, okay? There probably have been betrayals in this individual's life, or a person who has the King of Spades, or when the King of Spades shows up, that it can indicate that there could have been some betrayals in this person's life. But the whole lesson in medicine of the 7 of Hearts is to move beyond those old emotional patterns and to let go of those fears and insecurities. So this is where the King of Spades will test you. If you're willing and able to take that test and pass it, you are able to elevate to the higher level of awareness, especially in relationships. Now, King of Spades in relationships, there are power struggles and ego battles, because this is a fixed king. He's going to have things his way. He does not change his mind for anybody or anything. It is his way or the highway, period. So power struggles or ego battles. This king wants things his way. The thing is, the king has to learn how to empower the others, individuals, their own individuality in his relationships. Now, sevens. Let's just talk about sevens. Sevens initiate you into a higher realm of your own conscious awareness of limiting personal beliefs, outdated ways of thinking, and unconscious behaviors. Okay, resisting awareness causes misery, and that's why sometimes the King of Spades is associated with misery, because people are not aware. They're resisting awareness. They're unconscious of their behaviors. And that is what is causing the misery, because the self, the higher self, wants you to become aware. The greatest life challenges for the King of Spades just really involves learning to let others be who they are and releasing emotional attachments to those that they love. Conventional ways of being in relationship do not work here. So if you are involved with a King of Spades and you need to have a conventional relationship, forget it, because that is not a part of their energetic signature. It's not good or bad. It just is. Okay. So conventional ways of relationship do not work here. Embraces the eclectic and the unusual. Independence is key to happiness and longevity. So to be in a long-term relationship with someone with a strong King of Spades signature is to have sort of this eclectic and unusual independent way about the relationship, and that will keep the relationship going. Self-awareness is your greatest tool for being in a relationship with King of Spades. Self-discipline and discernment, they bring about the greatest qualities of the King of Spades. And also understand that the King of Spades has a strong will. very, very strong-willed, and they may shut down emotionally and just forego letting anyone get close to them. So those are some of the things that we deal with when we're dealing with the King of Spades in relationship. Now let's talk about some of these archetypes of the King of Spades. And we have King David here, King of the Israels, a King of Israel. So what do we know about King David? Well, King David was the giant slayer. He's the one who, with his wit, got rid of Goliath. He basically, King David, he was born of Jesse from Bethlehem, and this is 900 years before Jesus Christ. And he was called into by the king of that time, Saul, to be his musician, because Saul had a very bad temper, and it was recommended to him that he listen to music to calm him down. And King David was a poet and a musician, and he was called into Saul's kingdom to be a servant as a musician. And at the time when he was able to slay this giant Goliath, he was actually sent out into the battlefield to give the soldiers their, food or refreshment or something like that. And he took it upon himself because he was favored by the Lord. He was anointed already, and it was prophesied that he would be the king of Israel when he was just a baby. But he took it upon himself and picked up his rocks and anointed by the Lord, had the right angle, and he defeated the king or the giant Goliath. So he was a musician, a conqueror, but that was just the start, obviously. His life went on. Eventually, King Saul got jealous of him, sought out to kill King David. King David went into the cave, so he spent a lot of time in isolation by himself. Eventually, he had to answer his own calling. It came about. But we know that King David was a beautiful, so you saw him as the warrior. You saw him having to connect with God and being devout. He was the man after God's own heart. And these are all aspects of the King of Spades. These are the higher aspects of the King of Spades. So this is and he, he was a hero, and he still is the nation's hero. The Star of David is on the nation's flag right now to this day. And that star is a symbol of protection. So, the two stars, the as above, so below, they believe that they're sending their prayers up to God, and God is sending down the protection down here on earth to protect and to keep them. And so that symbol is used a lot. But King David is very important in a lot of ways, because in the Hoodoo tradition, he wrote the book of Psalms. And I love the book of Psalms. I pray the book of Psalms. I pray Psalm 23 almost every day. And so I do love King David, and I do love that he is associated here with the King of Spades. But there are 150 Psalms, and we use the Psalms in the Hoodoo tradition, and we use Bible magic. And also that King David is the father of King Solomon, and we know that King Solomon, in his magical way. But that is one archetype to consider or to think about when you have the King of Spades, or when we're thinking about today. We got King David. Maybe we want to recite Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. All right, get your Star of David. I think there's one looking like it right here on my on my throat. All right, now this was really interesting how this one came to be. Now, hanging out with my friend, surfing through Netflix for something to binge, this show came on, Alice in Borderland. And really, this is what provoked me and inspired me to do this presentation that I'm doing right now, because of the presence of the cards in the collective unconscious. Alice in Borderland basically is, I had to take some notes about it, but it's a show about, it's a game of survival. And they, the characters in that game, they go through these impossible tasks, and the cards are used to assign, what the game is. But look at the image of the King of Spades. So we have the card here, and then we have him over here as the executioner. And that's another name or another keyword for the low side of the King of Spades. So I'm going to read a quote directly from one of my card reading books, from Playing Card Divination and Fortune Telling, The Magi Method by Joseph Magi. It says that the symbol of the King of Spades is the executioner. The executioner wears a black hooded mask so that he remains nameless and fearless. He wears black clothing, has the authority, justly or unjustly, to do whatever they decide, acts without feeling or principle, position, and the concept that might is always right. Might is always right. So if you take the time to actually go watch Alice in Borderland, you will see how this King of Spades depiction, how he used his might. Okay, it's just wild. I took a few more screenshots from watching the Netflix series, a recap of the Netflix series actually, and this is how they worked with the cards. So basically, these were games, deadly games and obstacles. It says that the object of the game was not to win, okay? It's not to win the game, but rather these were battles of survival. So they had to choose between life and death. And life and death, those are the key words, another set of key words for anything in the spade suit. But this is how they assigned the games, okay? So for the spades, they were physical games, which makes sense because spades can represent our health and our physical body. For clubs, they assigned to team games. For diamonds, they assigned to games or intelligence tests, hearts, emotional tests, and then the number of the card depicted the difficulty of the task that these individuals had to surmount. And I recommend watching it. It's intense, okay? Just like it says, life and death. But if you are, into symbology and looking at the way that it shows up in the collective unconscious, this was really profound in that way. So I'll be using that as a point of reference often. All right. Now, some of the challenges of the King of Spades. We talked about some of them already, but King of Spades forewarns you of the utter wreck of your expectations. Again, he's going to wreck your expectations. Forget it. Don't go in there with any expectations. So King of Spades challenges. Great deal of potential. They have a great deal of potential for power, but along with that comes a great deal of responsibility. So because of that, many of the King of Spades choose not to wear the crown. Another challenge. There is the ability to accomplish great feats in this lifetime, but would have to abandon some of the more creative and playful activities. Thinking about that time of the life spread again, that 3 of 5, that 5 of clubs in Saturn. So in order to really obtain that higher level of authority and leadership that the King of Spades represents, we have to kind of take responsibility for that creative energy that we have that makes us restless and makes us want to explore and just be jovial and sort of abandon our responsibility. Another challenge for the King of Spades is that they can be very bossy and stubborn. They are the most fixed card in the deck. They are the 52nd card and they rule the entire deck. They are the King of Kings. So they can be extremely stubborn and bossy. Another challenge for the King of Spades is that the King of Spades, they have great wisdom and they love to impart that great wisdom on others. But will they take their own wisdom? Will they take their own medicine? Uncertainty and concerns around love, marriage, and romance is an ongoing challenge for the King of Spades. And the last challenge that I wrote here is that King of Spades, learn to make the best choices for empowering yourself, and the floodgates will open because it is the birthright of the King of Spades to be successful, to conquer, and to rule with authority and love and power. This deck is another one that I'm really excited about. This is the Sheba deck from 1972, the image that you see right here of the King of Spades. He's facing in a different direction, but this deck is a little different, and I'm really excited to get to work with that one. Now, the Oracle, when the King of Spades, when does he do? When does he show up? So you have the most powerful card in the deck. You have the ability to accomplish anything you choose. Be prepared to take leadership, to live by your own wisdom when this potent card appears. Success is yours for the taking, but you have to stand up and you have to claim it. People of this birth card, people who have this birth card or planetary ruling card, are masters of anything they do. They always rise to the top unless they choose to stay in their jack mode. Royals, court cards in a reading, just so that you understand, they usually always represent a person or a situation, either the seeker itself, a person in a life, or it's a symbol of the situation. King of Spades, therefore, could represent a judge, a mature, successful businessman, a boss, an officer, the government, the military, offices of the crown, the final authority, great leaders, grandfathers, basically a man of fixed will, power, and authority. As the most powerful of kings, you are equipped to handle and may be called upon to take on enormous responsibility for a large organization. Emotionally, you might be demonstrating very dark energy, depression, or draconian stoicism and seriousness. Okay. There is a high regard for wisdom, a love of learning, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve success and recognition to the extent desired. The most blessings are bestowed upon those who are really ready and willing to take on full responsibility for their life and for their work. The King of Spades is the card of success in all things. This is another fun deck. This deck was gifted to me from a colleague. I thought it was really cute. And isn't it interesting? Again, something else to point out about the collective unconscious. We know that the King of Spades is a Capricorn, but how did the artist of this deck know that the King of Spades was a Capricorn? Did she know that? Or is that something that she discerned? It's interesting, isn't it? Now, going on a little bit more about the King of Spades in a reading. I love this one. This deck of cards, this is one that I actually just ordered for my bonus son so he can get ready to study for Black History Month. But they put Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the King of Spades card, and I understand why. Okay, after all that we've talked about, you should also understand why. But just to be clear here, Dr. King is a Capricorn. However, Dr. King is the Queen of Diamonds in this system, which is a card that is ruled by Saturn, and it is on the Saturn line. But he does make a good image of the archetype of the King of Spades because of all of the difficulties and things that he had to overcome, his steadfastness. He even had a little reputation of gambling and doing things to sort of alleviate him, maybe a little bit of womanizing as far as, the word is in the little history books. But basically, he had a dream that he did not give up on, and he lived that dream and went through everything in order to obtain and realize that he didn't even get to see the fruit of his labor, but us sitting here today, we do. So understanding that, we know that Dr. Martin Luther King was born on January 15th, and this is January, and we'll be observing his day. So these are the things that happens with the kings. They have legacies that move on, live on. So we had King David, who still to this day is revered as the King of Israel. In fact, the flag of the nation still has his star, his shield on it to protect that nation. And then here we do have another king being depicted whose legacy lives on. And we have a deck of cards where he is shown that is being taught to our students here today for character and principle and action and how to live. So with the King of Spades in any position, this is what you have to ask yourself. Am I poised to take advantage of the King of Spades and act like a king? This means, am I poised and am I willing to take responsibility for the kingdom? Am I poised to make tough decisions? Am I poised to lay down the law and punish violators? Am I poised to be a ruthless protector? Am I poised to claim the crown? These are questions that you want to think about. If you are a King of Spades, if you have a planetary ruling card, that's the King of Spades, or the King of Spades shows up in any of your readings. So the King of Spades, you want to know how to work with the King of Spades and really, become intimate with the King of Spades, and know how to work with, especially if you find that the King of Spades is in a long-term position or in a very challenging position for you in any year. Meditate with the card itself. This is a method that people use to strengthen their psychic ability. And it's really simple, but basically, let me read to you these things. But the playing cards, they're not only to be used for divination. Okay, the playing cards are magical within themselves. They are talisman. Okay, each of them have their own power, and each of them carry great imagery and symbolism with intent. So whatever you're working on, if you're talking about the higher side of the king, when you're looking at the image and taking in all of it, you want to think about the power, command, authority, ambition, success, and aspirations, a man of professional eminence, or the masculine energy that you might need to achieve something. On the low side, we're talking about cruelty, perversity, barbarity, evil intentions, a man full of hatred, a lawyer that you have reason to fear, okay? A man of bad faith, a man who seeks to harm you, a dark man in difficult situations, immorality, atrocity. These are all the low sides of the King of Spades. So the meditation, you may have seen people do it before and it works. So who am I to change anything? But basically what you do is for about 5 minutes, you sit here and you take in all of the images on the card. And for me, what I do is I start right there at the top and I look at everything about this card, his crown, the color, the symbols on this crown. I go down into the face, the features of the face, his eyes, his nose, his eyebrows. It's like an awareness. And you go through the whole card and you take everything in for about 5 minutes. And then you close your eyes and you recall everything that you can about the card in your mind for about 5 minutes. Once you do that, you just sit there and you look with your eyes closed and you see this as a frame. And then animate the King of Spades. Let him come to life. Enter into his kingdom. See him sitting on his throne or however you see him, and animate the King of Spades and talk to him and see what he says to you, or ask a question if he's shown up in your spread for the whole year or for the day or whatever it may be. And this is how you connect with the cards. You can do this with any card that shows up. But for today, for the King of Spades day, the 1st of January, if you are into the cards, there might be something you're interested in doing. It's what I did this morning in my morning rituals. So that's the King of Spades. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something that you can use and apply in your life. If you're interested in a reading, then you can send me an email and you can learn more about the playing cards. I read the cards, I read tarot, I read astrology. So if you want to get into your birth chart and they all work together. So thank you for listening and have a beautiful 2023. To figure out how to end the show. There we go. Stop.